Were I to detail the books which I have consulted, and the inquiries which I have found it necessary to make by various channels, I should probably be thought ridiculously ostentatious. Let me only observe, as a specimen of my trouble, that I have sometimes been obliged to run half over London in order to fix a date correctly, which, when I had accomplished, I well knew would obtain me no praise, though a failure would have been to my discredit. And, after all, perhaps, hard as it may be, I shall not be surprised if omissions or mistakes be pointed out with invidious severity. I have also been extremely careful as to the exactness of my quotations, holding that there is a respect due to the public, which should oblige every author to attend to this, and never to presume to introduce them with, "I think I have read," or "if I remember right," when the originals may be examined. I beg leave to express my warmest thanks to those who have been pleased to favour me with communications and advice in the conduct of my work, but I cannot sufficiently acknowledge my obligations to my friend Mr. Malone, who was so good as to allow me to read to him almost the whole of my manuscript, and make such remarks as were greatly for the advantage of the work; though it is but fair to him to mention that, upon many occasions, I differed from him, and followed my own judgment. I regret exceedingly that I was deprived of the benefit of his revision, when not more than half of the book had passed through the press; but after having completed his very laborious and admirable edition of Shakespeare, for which he generously would accept of no other reward but that fame which he has so deservedly obtained, he fulfilled his promise of a long-wished-for visit to his relations in Ireland, from whence his safe return, Finibus Atticus, is desired by his friends here, with all the classical ardour of sic diva potentis Cypri, for there is no man in whom more elegant and worthy qualities are united, and whose society, therefore, is more valued by those who know him. It is painful for me to think that while I was carrying on this work, several of those to whom it would have been most interesting have died. Such melancholy disappointments we know to be incident to humanity, but we do not feel them the less. Let me particularly lament the Reverend Thomas Warton and the Reverend Dr. Adams. Mr. Warton, amidst his variety of genius and learning, was an excellent biographer. His contributions to my collection are highly estimable, and as he had a true relish of my tour of the Hebrides, I trust I should now have been gratified with a larger share of his kind approbation. Dr. Adams, eminent as the head of a college, as a writer, and as a most amiable man, had known Johnson from his early years, and was his friend through life. What reason I had to hope for the countenance of that venerable gentleman to this work will appear from what he wrote to me upon a former occasion from Oxford, November 17th, 1785. Dear Sir, I hazard this letter, not knowing where it will find you, to thank you for your very agreeable tour, which I found here on my return from the country, and in which you have depicted our friend so perfectly to my fancy, in every attribute, every scene and situation, that I have thought myself in the company, and of the party almost, throughout. It has given very general satisfaction, and those who have found most fault with a passage here and there have agreed that they could not help going through and being entertained with the whole. I wish, indeed, some few gross expressions had been softened, and a few of our hero's foibles had been a little more shaded. But it is useful to see the weaknesses incident to great minds, and you have given us Dr. Johnson's authority that in history all ought to be told. Such a sanction to my faculty of giving a just representation of Dr. Johnson I could not conceal, nor will I suppress my satisfaction in the consciousness that by recording so considerable a portion of the wisdom and wit of the brightest ornament of the 18th century, I have largely provided for the instruction and entertainment of mankind. London, April 20th, 1791. Advertisement to the second edition. That I was anxious for the success of a work which had employed much of my time and labor, I do not wish to conceal. But whatever doubts I at any time entertained have been entirely removed by the very favorable reception with which it has been honored. That reception has excited my best exertions to render my book more perfect, and in this endeavor I have had the assistance not only of some of my particular friends, but of many other learned and ingenious men, by which I have been enabled to rectify some mistakes, and to enrich the work with many valuable additions. These I have ordered to be printed separately in quarto, for the accommodation of the purchasers of the first edition. May I be permitted to say that the typography of both editions does honor to the press of Mr. Henry Baldwin, now master of the Worshipful Company of Stationers, whom I have long known as a worthy man and an obliging friend. In the strangely mixed scenes of human existence, our feelings are often at once pleasing and painful. Of this truth, the progress of the present work furnishes a striking instance. It was highly gratifying to me that my friend, Sir Joshua Reynolds, to whom it is inscribed, lived to peruse it, and to give the strongest testimony to its fidelity. But before a second edition, which he contributed to improve, could be finished, the world has been deprived of that most valuable man, a loss of which the regret will be deep and lasting, and extensive, proportionate to the felicity which he diffused through a wide circle of admirers and friends. In reflecting that the illustrious subject of this work, by being more extensively and more intimately known, however elevated before, has risen in the veneration and love of mankind, I feel a satisfaction beyond what fame can afford. We cannot, indeed, too much or too often admire his wonderful powers of mind, when we consider that the principal store of wit and wisdom which this work contains was not a particular selection from his general conversation, but was merely his occasional talk at such times as I had the good fortune to be in his company. And, without doubt, if his discourse at other periods had been collected with the same attention, the whole tenor of what he uttered would have been found equally excellent. His strong, clear, and animated enforcement of religion, morality, loyalty, and subordination, while it delights and improves the wise and the good, will, I trust, prove an effectual antidote.